Sarah's hands trembled as she stared at the antique mirror in her grandmother's bedroom, its ornate silver frame gleaming in the dim afternoon light. The estate sale was supposed to be simple: clear out the house, sell what she could, and move on with her life. But the mirror seemed to watch her, its surface rippling like disturbed water whenever she moved too close. "That's impossible," she whispered, reaching toward the glass. The moment her fingertips made contact, the reflection shifted. Instead of her own face, she saw herself from last Tuesday night, the night she'd driven home from the bar, the night she'd tried so hard to forget. The night something terrible had happened on Maple Street. The mirror showed her standing over a crumpled figure in the rain, her face twisted with panic and guilt. But that was just a nightmare, wasn't it? She'd convinced herself it was just another anxiety-induced dream, another product of her overactive imagination. The reflection whispered with her own voice, "You can't hide from what you've done." Sarah stumbled backward, her heart hammering against her ribs like a caged bird desperate for escape. The mirror's surface returned to normal, showing only her pale, frightened face and the cluttered bedroom behind her. She'd been dealing with stress-induced hallucinations for months. Her therapist had warned her about this. The guilt over her grandmother's death, the pressure of handling the estate, the sleepless nights filled with fragmented dreams. But this felt different. This felt real in a way that made her skin crawl with recognition. She approached the mirror again, slower this time, studying her reflection for any sign of the disturbing vision. Her grandmother had always claimed this mirror was special, passed down through generations of women in their family. "It remembers things," the old woman used to say with a knowing smile. "Important things that people try to forget." Sarah had dismissed it as dementia-fueled rambling. Now, standing in the suffocating silence of the empty house, she wasn't so sure. The memories of that Tuesday night crashed over her like a cold wave. She'd been driving home from Henderson's bar after 3 glasses of wine, maybe 4. The rain had been relentless, turning the streets into rivers of reflected streetlights. She remembered gripping the steering wheel, squinting through the windshield, fighting to keep her eyes focused on the road ahead. Then came the sound, a sickening thud that seemed to echo from the depths of her soul. She'd slammed on the brakes, her car skidding to a stop on the empty street. For a moment, she'd sat there in the darkness, listening to the rain hammer against the roof, telling herself it was just a pothole, just debris from the storm. But when she'd finally worked up the courage to get out and look, she'd seen him. A homeless man, maybe in his 60s, lying motionless in the street. His shopping cart had been overturned, its contents scattered like broken dreams across the wet asphalt. The mirror rippled again, and Sarah watched in horror as the scene played out in perfect, devastating detail. She saw herself kneeling beside the man, checking for a pulse with shaking fingers. She saw the moment when panic overtook reason, when self-preservation silenced her conscience. The reflection showed her loading the man's body into her car, driving to the old quarry on the outskirts of town, and disposing of the evidence like discarded garbage. "No," she whispered, pressing her palms against her temples. "That's not what happened. I called 911. I stayed with him until the ambulance arrived." But even as she spoke the words, she knew they were lies. The mirror showed her the truth she'd buried beneath layers of denial and rationalization. She'd left him there in the rain, alone and dying, while she drove home and pretended nothing had happened. She'd read about his death in the newspaper the next morning, a hit-and-run victim, identity unknown, no leads for the police to follow. The reflection shifted, showing her something that made her blood turn to ice. The homeless man was standing behind her in the mirror, his face pale and accusatory, his clothes still dripping with rainwater and blood. His eyes, those hollow, haunted eyes, bore into her soul with an intensity that made her knees buckle. "You left me," he said, his voice echoing from within the glass. "You left me to die alone in the cold." Sarah spun around, but the bedroom was empty. When she turned back to the mirror, the man was gone, replaced by her own terrified reflection. But something had changed. Her reflection was smiling, a cold, knowing smile that didn't match her own expression of horror. "The mirror remembers," her reflection said, speaking without Sarah moving her lips. "And it won't let you forget. Every person who looks into this glass will see what you did. Your secret will follow you everywhere you go." Sarah's mind reeled as the implications crashed over her. Her grandmother's words echoed in her memory, important things that people try to forget. How many secrets had this mirror collected over the years? How many guilty consciences had it exposed? She thought about the upcoming estate sale, about strangers handling her grandmother's belongings, about someone else taking the mirror home. The thought of her crime being revealed to random buyers filled her with a terror that transcended reason. She had to destroy it. She had to make it stop. She grabbed a heavy candlestick from the dresser and raised it above her head, preparing to shatter the glass into 1,000 pieces. But as she brought it down, the mirror's surface seemed to absorb the impact, the candlestick passing through the glass like it was made of water. The mirror remained intact, unmarked, while the candlestick clattered to the floor behind it. Her reflection laughed, a sound like breaking glass and dying breath. "You can't destroy the truth," the reflection said, its voice growing stronger, more confident. "And you can't destroy me. I am everything you've tried to hide, everything you've tried to forget. I am the part of you that remembers what it feels like to be human." Sarah felt something snap inside her mind, a thread of sanity that had been holding her together finally giving way. She'd been so focused on covering up her crime, on protecting her reputation and her freedom, that she'd forgotten about the man she'd killed. She'd forgotten that he was someone's father, someone's brother, someone's son. The mirror showed her glimpses of his life, sleeping in doorways, searching for food in dumpsters, struggling with addiction and mental illness. It showed her his moments of kindness, sharing his meager meals with stray cats, helping other homeless people find shelter. It showed her his final moments, lying in the rain, calling out for help that would never come. The visions came faster now, overwhelming her senses with their intensity. She saw herself at the police station, confessing to the crime. She saw herself in court, facing the man's family, accepting responsibility for what she'd done. She saw herself in prison, finding a strange kind of peace and finally telling the truth. But these weren't memories, they were possibilities, futures that could still come to pass if she found the courage to make them real. The mirror wasn't just showing her the past, it was showing her the way forward, the path to redemption that she'd been too afraid to walk. He had a name, her reflection said softly. Thomas Mitchell. He was 63 years old. He had a daughter in Portland who hadn't spoken to him in 10 years. She's been looking for him, wondering if he's still alive. Sarah's knees gave out, and she collapsed to the floor, tears streaming down her face. The weight of her guilt was crushing, but for the first time in months, she felt something else, relief. The mirror's surface began to change, showing her one final vision. She saw herself picking up the phone, dialing 911, and telling the operator that she had information about the hit and run on Maple Street. She saw herself meeting with Detective Rodriguez, the officer who'd been investigating the case. She saw herself leading him to the quarry, showing him where she'd hidden the body. The vision was so vivid, so real, that she almost believed it had already happened. But when she looked at her hands, she saw they were still shaking, still stained with the invisible blood of her crime. She was still the same person who'd fled the scene, still the same coward who'd let an innocent man die alone. But she didn't have to stay that way. The mirror had shown her the truth, and the truth had set something free inside her, not absolution, but the possibility of it. Thomas Mitchell deserved justice, and his daughter deserved to know what had happened to her father. Sarah stood up slowly, her legs unsteady but her resolve growing stronger with each breath. The mirror's surface had returned to normal, showing only her tear-stained face and the bedroom behind her. But she could feel Thomas Mitchell's presence in the room, not threatening or vengeful, but patient and waiting. She walked to the nightstand and picked up her grandmother's old rotary phone. The numbers felt heavy under her fingertips as she dialed 911, each digit a step toward redemption. As the phone rang, she caught her reflection in the mirror one last time. For the first time in months, her reflection looked like her. No more lies, no more hiding, just a woman ready to face the consequences of her actions. 911, what's your emergency? Sarah took a deep breath, looking into the mirror as she spoke. I need to report a crime. I killed someone, and I need to tell you where you can find the body. The mirror seemed to shimmer with approval, and for just a moment, she could have sworn she saw Thomas Mitchell smile. The truth has a way of surfacing, doesn't it? No matter how deep we try to bury our darkest secrets, they always find a way to claw their way back to the light. Sarah's story reminds us that sometimes the most haunting mirrors aren't made of glass, they're made of conscience, memory, and the weight of what we've done when no one was watching. What do you think about Sarah's choice at the end? Was the mirror truly supernatural, or was it just her guilt finally breaking through years of denial? Could you have found the courage to pick up that phone, or would you have tried to smash the mirror and run? I'd love to hear your theories in the comments below. If this twisted story left you haunted and hungry for more psychological thrillers that will keep you guessing until the very end, hit that like button and subscribe for more mind-bending tales that explore the darkest corners of human nature. There are more secrets waiting to be uncovered, more mysteries that will make you question everything you think you know about guilt, redemption, and the power of truth. Until next time, stay kind, stay sharp, and stay curious.